So, have you ever wondered how an incredibly unlikely advertising executive somehow managed to completely change the world's most popular sport forever? Today, we're looking at a man described by the Sunday Times as the spiritual godfather of the Premier League. I know it's a massive claim, but as we're about to see, the entire modern football landscape, with its multi-billion-dollar broadcast deals and global megastars, actually owes its very existence to a single, highly calculated corporate playbook. Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here because today we are unpacking Alex Finn's football marketing blueprint. We're going to trace exactly how a brilliant mind from the advertising world took a sport deeply rooted in working class tradition and drafted the foundational document that basically birthed a global entertainment juggernaut. It is a wildly fascinating story about money, marketing, and some major unintended consequences. Section 1. Football's Financial Crisis. The systemic decay of the 1980s. Okay, before we get into the revolution, we really have to understand just how bleak the state of English football was before 1992. Because, you have to understand the crisis to understand why they needed a revolution in the first place. Let's walk through this timeline. The Football League was founded way back in 1888, starting with just 12 clubs. By 1958, it had evolved into this highly stabilized 92-club pyramid spread evenly across 4 divisions. And for decades, this system was the absolute bedrock of English football. But fast forward to the late 1980s, and the sport was in a desperate crisis. Stadiums were physically decaying, literally falling apart, leading to some truly tragic safety failures. The sport desperately needed to modernize, to build safe all-seater arenas. But more importantly, it desperately needed the cash to actually do it. And this right here perfectly hits the nail on the head regarding the core problem. It was a massive clash of interests. On one side, we had the historic model, a 92-club egalitarian system, where television and gate revenues were shared across all 4 divisions. It was designed to keep the entire pyramid afloat. But on the other side, you had the desires of the so-called Big Five: Arsenal, Everton, Liverpool, Manchester United, and Tottenham Hotspur. They were the ones generating the vast majority of the television viewership and the gate receipts. And frankly, they were completely tired of subsidizing the lower-tier clubs. They wanted absolute financial autonomy to keep the revenue they were bringing in, and that right there set the stage for a massive breakaway. Section 2. The Smart Alec Adman. From Saatchi Saatchi to Spurs. So enter our totally unlikely protagonist, Alex Finn. Let's look at his background, because I promise you, it is not your typical football resume. He was a vice chairman at the absolutely legendary advertising agency Saatchi Saatchi. He actually spearheaded these incredibly famous, high-impact campaigns, like the Health Education Council's Pregnant Man ad, and some major anti-smoking initiatives. Finn playfully described himself not as a smart aleck, but as a smart aleck, noting his agency needed someone comparatively honest, very boring, and Jewish. He brought this unflinching, sharp corporate candor to his work. And in the 1980s, Tottenham Hotspur's visionary owner, Irving Scholar, realized football desperately needed exactly this kind of commercial marketing. So he brought Finn into the fold. And Finn? He didn't waste a single second. Under his guidance, Tottenham actually released the very first television advertisement for league football. The commercial announced their opening match with this incredibly powerful hook. Spurs are fielding 40,000 against Coventry City. Make sure you're one of the team. This was revolutionary for the time. Finn was actively taking traditional, everyday supporters and turning them into engaged consumers. He made them feel like a crucial, necessary part of the club's product ethos. Section 3. Blueprint for the Future. The Ultimate Corporate Playbook. Well, Finn's marketing genius at Spurs definitely didn't go unnoticed. Soon enough, he was tapped by the sport's actual governing body, the Football Association itself, to help them navigate those rising tensions with the Football League. So in 1991, the FA published the Blueprint for the Future of Football. And guess who was commissioned to author the commercial and broadcasting sections? Alex Finn. This document officially endorsed the establishment of a completely independent, commercially driven top-flight division. Basically, it provided the ultimate administrative and ideological justification to just tear up a 104-year-old system. Now, Finn's blueprint wasn't just some vague pie-in-the-sky concept. It was a set of highly calculated commercial mechanics. He recommended 3 specific steps. Step 1, start the new league with exactly 18 clubs. This was to ensure high match quality and reduce fixture congestion, which would help English teams compete in Europe. Step 2, the FA absolutely must retain a golden share of the television rights to protect the broader, long-term interest of the game. And step 3, establish independent broadcasting deals so those top clubs could finally keep their money to fund those desperately needed stadium upgrades. Honestly, it was a brilliant, incredibly balanced plan. But wow, here is where the dramatic irony really sets in. The club chairman effectively hijacked the whole thing. While they absolutely loved Finn's idea of a commercially independent breakaway, they completely ignored his most crucial protective advice. Instead of 18 clubs, they started with 22, just to appease certain vested interests. And worst of all, they completely stripped the FA of its golden share. The powerful club chairman essentially kept all the power and all the money strictly for themselves. The FA had commissioned Finn's amazing plan, but they just totally failed to execute his safeguards. Section 4, the billion-pound breakaway, Murdoch's millions. With that structural blueprint securely in place, it was time to lock in the broadcasting rights. £304 million. Let that sink in. At the time, ITV executives like Greg Dyke thought they had the broadcasting rights completely locked down for terrestrial TV. But no way. They were totally outmaneuvered by this surprise, monumental 5-year bid from Rupert Murdoch's new satellite television network, BSkyB. It was an absolutely unprecedented sum of money, and it instantly vindicated all the commercial ambitions of those breakaway clubs. Just to understand how ruthlessly efficient this corporate takeover really was, trace this timeline with me. The FA blueprint was published in June of 1991. By July, the top clubs had already signed the founder members agreement. Come February 1992, the first division clubs officially resigned en masse from the Football League. And by August 1992, the brand new FA Premier League kicked off. In barely over a single year, Finn's clever marketing proposal transformed into a televised multi-million-pound reality. Section 5, going global, from insular to international. This combination of total structural independence and all that satellite television money acted like absolute rocket fuel. It built the staggering global scale of the Premier League that we all know today. Just look at this dramatic demographic shift. On the opening weekend of the Premier League back in 1992, across all 22 teams, there were only 13 players from outside Great Britain and Ireland. Guys like Manchester City's Michel Vonk and Oldham's Gunnar Hawley. Fast forward to the modern era, roughly 70% of the players in the Premier League now come from foreign shores. Finn's blueprint essentially created a platform with such massive global appeal and financial dominance that it just instantly began sucking in the best international talent. So if you've ever found yourself wondering why match ticket prices and TV subscriptions are so astronomically high today, well, the commercial engine Finn designed was working almost a little too well. Back in 1992, Michel Vonk moved to Manchester City for a fairly standard £500,000. But the cash escalated so rapidly that just 4 years later, Alan Shearer transferred to Newcastle for £15 million. And to put that into perspective, if you adjust that for today's Premier League market, that exact same equivalent transfer would be worth an eye-watering £90 to £100 million. Crazy, right? Section 6. The Architect's Regret. A monster created. Alex Finn gave football the ultimate commercial blueprint for sure, but the final result wasn't exactly what he had originally envisioned. Just listen to his own reflection on his legacy. Today, the Premier League is not an English league. It is a global one. As a result, England will never win the World Cup or the European Championships. Now, I feel terrible about it. You see, Finn originally championed the Premier League because he genuinely thought it would be good for the clubs and for the English national team. But because the FA totally failed to implement his protective golden share and they failed to limit the league to 18 clubs, he just had to sit back and watch his creation prioritize global commercial entertainment way over domestic sporting development. He feels profound guilt over the unintended consequences of his very own corporate masterpiece. Which leaves us with this final, somewhat uncomfortable thought. Look, Alex Finn's blueprint undeniably saved English stadiums. It completely modernized the game, and it established literally the most successful marketing platform in sports history. But when you look at the massive wealth gap and the sheer unfiltered commercialization of the sport today, was the creation of a multi-billion-dollar global entertainment product truly worth the cost to the sport's original egalitarian traditions? It's something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and keep asking those big questions.